Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dan, the voice behind ThatKaitoDan, and welcome to some RWBY breaking news, with a new piece of RWBY side material for us to enjoy. So today we have an announcement about some new reading material coming to the world of RWBY, and it's in line with something that we are already familiar with, or at least we'll find out soon enough. A while back, it was announced that as part of some new spin-off shows for RWBY, there's going to be a 2D mixed media spin-off focused on fairy tales from the world of Remnant. Obviously, in the past, we've had a ton of different fairy tales brought up and play some role in the main narrative. And that was exciting by itself, the fact that we're getting a spin-off that will explore these many fairy tales. But now we have something going in line with it that we'll actually be able to have in our own hands, and that is a book basically containing those same fairy tales. So I'm just gonna read the blog that I'll leave in the link of the description down below, which says, "The world of Remnant is an enchanted place. And now with Scholastic's upcoming RWBY Fairy Tales of Remnant, readers can discover more magic, danger, and beauty. The illustrated collection of 12 fairy tales includes 8 never-before-told stories from RWBY's show writers. The remaining 4 stories cover classic tales from the show, including the story of the seasons and the tale of the two brothers." Scrolling on further on down, we'll talk about the images in a sec. It also says that pre-orders are now available through Scholastic, and it will be coming out September 15th later this year. And it goes on again to say about the upcoming 2D show featuring the fairy tales that we'll have later on this year as well. And they also said RWBY lore seekers can expect more information about the book and the show in the months to come. So yeah, this is another part of the partnership with RWBY and Scholastic, who helped work on the coffee book, RWBY After the Fall, and the upcoming Before the Dawn. So this is, I believe, the 3rd book from them. I can't recall if they were involved with the World of RWBY book. But yeah, this is something really damn cool. Getting not just the fairy tales in the show, but actually having them in our own book. And if we go up to the front cover, I'm just gonna say right out of the boot that this cover looks so goddamn cool. I would have it as a poster on my wall. The art for this is fantastic. The cover is actually designed by, Betsy Peterschmidt. I hope I'm getting that last name right. And props to you, Betsy. You absolutely killed it with this design. I love it. It's got that classic English literature design to it, like you would see for many classic fairy tale books, with the faded colors, the very warm colors as well. So it's very friendly for any young readers for this as well, not just RWBY fans. And going on further into the people working on this, it said earlier that the show writers are involved with this, as too is E.C. Myers, who again previously worked on After the Fall and the upcoming Before the Dawn. So it's people very familiar, of course, with the world of RWBY. They're adding more depth to the world of Remnant. And just on a concept alone, I love the fact that we are getting these fairy tales, because stuff like this is small, but it can add so much more depth to the world, as it makes it feel like it's existed before the actual main narrative takes place. So this helps Remnant feel like a fleshed out world that has lasted many years, where people have created these fairy tales to tell their kids, and then they pass it on to their kids, and so on. Stuff like this is great for world building and just, again, giving a bit more depth to the world. And yeah, I'm fantastically pleased to see this. Going back again to the staff side of it, the main illustrations for the book is being done by Violet Tobacco. Again, I hope I'm getting the last names right. And we actually get a little preview of the kind of illustrations that we're going to be getting with this shot here of, I'm assuming, either the principal character that we're going to be exploring these fairy tales from, like maybe this is them reading the fairy tales and it goes into the stories through there, or this is just a, you know, a blanket representation of our own reading experience that we're going to be having with this book. But yeah, the artwork looks fantastic. Again, very much like the cover. It's got that kind of rustic feel with like the faded patterns on the light, the colors blending in together with kind of like, almost like when you've I don't know like the technical term, but it almost feels like when you paint something with a sponge, you get that kind of like spotty outlook to it, but it looks damn impressive. So yeah, from the visual standpoint, this looks like it's already going to be flipping amazing. But let's now go talk about those actual fairy tales in itself. So they said that there's going to be 12 fairy tales in this book, and 4 of them are ones that we are already familiar with. They mentioned 2 of them, the Story of the Seasons and the Tale of the Two Brothers, which were first mentioned in universe by Pyrrha when she was talking about her favourite fairy tales in the episode 4 from Volume 3, which played into Ozpin revealing the seasonal maidens to her and everything that unfolded from that. So yeah, it's stuff that we're familiar with on top of some new stories. In terms of the other 2 that we are apparently going to be familiar with that they didn't mention, I imagine it will be the other ones that Pyrrha mentioned in that same scene, which were, I believe, The Shallow Sea and The Girl in the Tower. Now, obviously, in terms of RWBY, these fairy tale mentions have a little bit more weight to them because more often than not, we've seen that they actually play a role in the major narrative. A lot of the principal themes or characters in these mentioned fairy tales actually feature in RWBY itself. Obviously, the most notable one probably is The Man with Two Souls, which was first mentioned as a book that Blake read in Volume 1, and that ended up playing a part in representing Ozpin's reincarnation and his bonding with other people's souls, like he is now with Oscar. And that's just like one of the examples, like The Story of the Seasons, that played into the Seasonal Maidens. The Tale of the Two Brothers plays into the God Brothers, the God of Light and the God of Darkness. A lot of people speculate the Girl in the Tower is related to Salem when she was kept away in the tower before being rescued by Ozma. So there's definitely been a precedent where these fairy tales actually have some worth into the main narrative beyond just, like I was saying before, expanding the world of Remnant by having some depth like this. So that's cool. We may get that then with the original tales, like the ones that we have not seen before. They may have hints to future story points that we'll get in the future. That remains to be seen, of course. But we can actually kind of speculate a little bit on what these original tales will be because of the cover. There's some of the images shown on the front cover are actually referencing the tales that is going to be contained within. As you see, we got a ruined tower, which could represent the Girl in the Tower. In each of the corners, there's 4 leaves with different states going on, depending on how they would look in each of the 4 seasons. So you got winter, summer, spring, and fall. So yeah, that definitely looks like this is suggesting that it's actually referencing all the original tales as well. Like, again, at the bottom, we got a split skull with horns very much similar to the God of Light and the God of Darkness. So we can speculate on at least a little bit what the other stories are going to be involving with these images. So starting with the very top, we have what looks like some sort of hook weapon, which kind of also looks like I can't remember the term, but it's like one of those farmer's tools that they use to chop down wheat. It could be something related to do with farming or an actual like weapon, so maybe some kind of fairy tale involving a fight or a huge war. In the middle, we have a crown, and there's another fairy tale that I'll mention in a bit later that actually could be something that we already know already. So I'll save that for a little bit later. We got a bow and arrow, which again could be referring to an actual huntsman fight, or maybe it's hunting, like you hunt your prey with a bow and arrow. Next, there's a Grim mask, which I think looks like a Beowulf's head, so maybe it's something to do with a Beowulf. Again, we have the ruined tower. In the bottom right, I think this is in reference to the shallow sea with this fish here. And in actuality, I think the shallow sea is actually referring to the shallow sea market in Menagerie. I think it was mentioned in, I want to say, the Volume 5 commentary, that's actually what it's referring to. So the fairy tale there might be related to some kind of story or legend passed around in Menagerie. So I think that would be cool. Then we have a bird, which I want to say kind of looks like a raven or a crow. And as soon as I mention those two things, you kind of guess what that might be in reference to. But I'll go back to that in a second. Then there's a long stem flower, which I have no clue which flower exactly that is, but yeah, that's obviously going to have some role into the story. I can't get any kind of guess on that. And finally, there's a book with some sort of crest on it, which usually in fiction, that is referring to some kind of magical book. So maybe this is a cursed book that if you open, there's some kind of immense power within, or maybe this is someone learning about magic through reading books and stuff like that. But let's go back to the crown and the bird. So I think these are also playing into plot elements that we are familiar with the main narrative. Obviously, the bird I mentioned before kind of looks like a raven or a crow, at least I think it does. So this could be a fairy tale that inspired Ozpin for his idea to turn crow and raven into birds as part of his scouting forces, or at least his scouting plans. So maybe this is a tale that is going to be inspiring that, much like how the seasonal maidens and the girl in the tower and the man with two souls sort of gave inspiration, or at least comes back to the inspiration of those powers in universe. As for the crown, I wonder if that is gonna be in reference to the Warrior King, also known as the last King of Vale, who was the leader of the Kingdom of Vale during the Great War. He was the guy who single-handedly stopped the fighting and led to the warring kingdoms coming together and forming a peace treaty in Vital. So maybe we'll get a little bit more on the history of the Warrior King, or maybe the ending battle of the Great War, which is something I really want to know more about, especially because that could also play into Ozpin, if this is a former life of his, and Jean as well, because there's a lot of speculation on maybe Jean being related to the Warrior King. So yeah, definitely a lot of these images on the cover are going to be related to the fairy tales contained within. But something that you might have noticed is if you go around and count them all up, that's only 11 fairy tales, like, shown, or at least teased. And we know that there's going to be 12 in this book. So what is the 12th one? Well, I think that might actually be related to RWBY, who's again shown in the center of this cover. I think this could be a tale on the Silver-Eyed Warriors. When the power was first revealed back in the end of Volume 3, Crow mentioned that there was a long-standing fable, a long-standing legend about the Silver-Eyed Warriors, and like how a single look from them can strike a grim down. So maybe this is going to be a fairy tale in relation to maybe how the Silver-Eyed Warriors first came into being, maybe a little bit more of a fictional creation on where the powers came from the God of Light, because there's apparently a connection there from when it was explored in Volume 6. Maybe it's like a legendary Silver-Eyed Warrior, maybe it's related to Maria, you never know. But yeah, I think that might be the 12th fairy tale that we're gonna get in this book. Obviously, time will tell in terms of like what these actual stories will be about, but either way, I'm looking forward to this. I think this is fantastic stuff, again, to flesh out the world of Remnant. It's something for us fans to enjoy. And honestly, from any of the past fairy tales we've had in the past, I think these could be great stories that you can actually have as fairy tales to read to your kids. Like the Seasonal Maiden one, I think is so good as a fairy tale that you could easily tell that to a kid and they would be able to perfectly understand the story without any RWBY context and learn the message and the themes behind it of sincerity, of sharing goodwill and doing things because you want to and because it's to help people rather than trying to gain your own kind of like fortune out of it. If any of these fairy tales have those similar kind of themes that you can enjoy and understand without context to RWBY, I think that would be fantastic. And obviously if it does play into future plot points in RWBY to come, that would be great too. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. It's a shame that it's going to be all the way out in September, but at least in the meantime, we're going to have the 2D show to enjoy, so we can experience the stories through there, and then we can have them in our hands in the future with all new artwork to them, which, just based on what we've got from the teaser image, I'm looking forward to seeing all that fantastic artwork again. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this cool little bit of new side material that we'll have coming to us later this year. We've got a lot of side material coming to this year. The free shows, the talk show, the RWBY D&D, and now the fairy tale show and this book. We also got Before the Dawn coming out as well. RWBY fans, we're still getting fed quite well, even with the main series now going into its volume break. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this, but let me know what you guys thought about this book, and maybe even a little bit more on your feelings on the main 2D show as well. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. And while you're at it, hit the subscribe and bell buttons and tick the notification box to make sure you get every new video from me as they drop. And follow me on Twitter at ThatKaitoDan for more on anything to do with RWBY, updates on future content for the channel, and more. But until next time, have a good day or good night, and peace out.